Alright, Shalom Malcolm. Before we begin, I want to start off by giving infinite praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakudash, double honors to the apostles and elders, every Muslim, I'm going to teach you well, and peace and blessings be unto you, fellow alchemy brothers, that us push out this word in truth, faith, and sincerity. And those in this lesson, I want to bring out some scriptures here based off of not only this article alone, which I'm going to just bring some few things out, but obviously ever since the shutdown has been lifted, which was last week, I believe the 12th. All right, which is not only the longest shutdown that Babylon America has ever seen, but also the fact that it had a one could say devastating impact, because Esau is always going to end up changing the numbers regardless, but the data that we're eventually going to see in these upcoming days of how it affected the economy, so it's only going to be evident in itself when you see the numbers. All right, and there's actually I believe it's by the USDA, estimated that 1 billion of these US FRNs pretty much was lost per week during this government kerfuffle. All right, so I'm gonna read a little bit of this. It says the Federal Aviation Administration has ended all restrictions on commercial flights. All 40 major U.S. airports that had been imposed as a result of air traffic control safety concerns, and amid the longest government shutdown in history. Yeah, and the thing is, you have to remember is that which I don't even know, that pretty much air traffic controllers, the job in itself is a government job, and it would have to be because of the fact that which I didn't even know myself. Trump, all right, recently he even offered you can never tell if it's a joke or not, but I did see news articles. I didn't get to read them yet or bring them out today. That he's going to be giving out a $10,000 bonus to those attendants that actually stayed and that didn't abstain from going into work. Right? Because you have to remember, people were literally not, especially again government workers, we're not getting any money. So that in itself is going to impact the economy regardless. All right, and it's been like that for a while. Any change when it comes out to commerce, or because remember, aviation travel is what it affects hotels. It affects the holidays, which we're going to be coming into, the holiday season, so called. And with that affecting everyone, that's just going to be a shadow of things to come, as foretold by the scriptures. All right, and this it's on a big scale, because this isn't the ancient world. You're not gonna have it to where, we're just gonna be leaving these defense and wall cities, but what people are gonna want to leave by way of flight. And here it is. I think over 2,900 flights were just flat out canceled. You only had 1,000 more in delays, man. And it gave a list of those U.S. airports, and it's 40. All right, 40 of those major ones. All right, and actually, before I get that, because I have a list of those set airports, but of course I have to bring that out in 2nd Ezra 15. All right, this is 2nd Ezra 15, verse 15. It says, "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and sword in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard the kings nor princes." And in verse 15, all right, one people fighting against another, meaning it's going to be just all-out chaos. All right, mayhem. All right, and when you look those things up, it's pretty much violence or the absence of government, man. All right, the fact that government has to dictate whether or not you can leave a country, in a lot of ways, it's a very what's the word? It's an oppressive draconian law, to say the most, just to be super blunt about it. All right, because so I can think about it, and these coming holidays, Lord's will, there will be one, another catastrophic event that could either happen to the economy or the government itself or America as a whole. You're gonna want people seeing each other's families. I know someone who's gonna be wanting to go to Canada this coming so-called New Year's, and here it is. They were just completely devastated over the fact that because at the time, again, the government shutdown was still in its highest running 43rd day course. All right. And here it is. They just wanted to visit someone. Now imagine, all right, when sedition and destruction come upon them and they actually have to travel or want to travel to these other places to be with their families. And they swear they're not going to be able to. Why? Because the government told them not so. That's an oppressive, draconian, meaning extreme law. You know? Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And we're seeing that really on a low level, because you had Trump pretty much put out a direct, not direct order, but because I believe this is actually the first president to have an active social media account. When I say active, I mean, who knows what that could really mean, because I highly doubt the man actually puts out every single message by his own will. But so like I almost lost my point. But these air traffic controllers, they did it wasn't by their will to continue to oblige and just to keep doing their job. They weren't getting paid. Were they regarding their king or their prince? Were they regarding America by itself? Hell no. You know? And you best believe their gross income is way above average than your average, your average Joe. You know? At least. Now, I'm not going to throw a number in there, but nevertheless, they didn't regard their kings and they didn't regard their princes, and yet the course of their actions did indeed stand in the littlest powers that they had. And that's why they didn't go to work. That's why they were pretty much taking a stand, so to speak, Now, yes, now everyone's back to work. Now everyone's just going to forget about it and put it down in another check mark and forget about it and put it in the history books. But nevertheless, all right, it's going to happen again and again, all right? People think this is going to be a common trend, but hell no. We're just seeing it bit by bit, all right? And only in 2026, we're going to see it pretty much ramp up than it ever was before, all right? And it's going to be way worse than just, flights being prohibited, Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And in this case, there's different countries and really anywhere else in the world, man. For brothers that actually have traveled outside the U.S., you know how it is. All right? It's a damn rat race just to get to your own flight. And here it is. You're hearing news at the terminals and this and that over these troubling places. And in this case, it's Babylon, man. All right? When you there's actually a certain shame that comes from the fact that a lot of these countries pretty much have to impose certain things on the majority of their citizens, especially over a government shutdown. There's a certain shame over it, man. Especially when something like 9/11 happened. All right, people, these other countries, they're gonna make jokes about it. It's humiliating. All right, and why is that? Because you're taking a shot at the prideness of that nation. And that's what verse 18 goes into as well. But I'm gonna bring out real quick the the full list of the 40 airports that were impacted, and this is just again, it's just something visually for brothers to see, because this, of course, to the 144,000 hopeful number, this pretty much impacted damn near every state. I'm gonna just go down the list. We have Anchorage, or Alaska, right? Boston, Baltimore, Charlotte, Cincinnati, Dallas, here in D.C., Ronald Reagan, Denver, Dallas, Detroit, Fort Lauderdale, Honolulu, Houston. Again, the international, Dulles in the DMV area, right? Indianapolis, New York, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, New York, Orlando, Chicago, Memphis, Miami, Minneapolis, Oakland, Chicago, O'Hare, Philly, Philadelphia, Phoenix, San Diego, Louisville, Seattle, San Francisco, Salt Lake City, Tampa International. Probably missed some. I don't mean to be dyslexic, but yep. All right, and those are one of the few that I just listed there, the 40 major U.S. airports, man. All right, impacted in in those places. And only imagine, all right, if it was just order at KO, order at a chaos, all right, and actual emergency orders that you would actually see, even in the movies. All right, they show you that in Contagion, and that was over a pandemic. All right, a widespread pandemic. Now, how much more when we actually see America totally being troubled? I have another video idea that struck to my head. I was going into a lot of the firearm laws here in the DMV, and one particular quote that came to mind was the fact that America in itself as a nation was born out of violence. It was born out of trouble. It was born out of sedition, and that's why it's a high held and literal foundational belief for Babylon to be for its citizens to give their citizens the right to bear arms. That in itself gives a lot of people proudness and more proudness over the fact that it's the only country in the world to actually have that as a base foundation, man. You see? And that's why this place is going to be what? It's ultimately going to be thrown down by violence, man. All right? That's not by coincidence. 2 Ezra 15 and 18. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread and for the great tribulation. All right? This is Jeremiah 51 and 7. It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. That's right. And for the longest time, for decades, all right, there was a time where America was viewed as the greatest nation on earth. Now, slowly but surely, really fastly, that's not a word, I don't think, in a very quick way, all right, for the elect's sake, all right, America is crumbling before our very eyes, and it has been really for years, right? And we see it with its economy. We see it in the most smallest place, even in the most what someone might view as a minuscule thing, even in its music, right? And its people in itself, their leaders, right? Even the council of the wicked that we may not even see in the media, the media in itself, right? All but tainted, man. The wisdom, all right, the pseudo wisdom this place had to offer, all right. It's all been a golden cup, meaning, all right, it was all made for the intent, all right, starting with Yahweh Shem Shai, for this place to be set up as the most wicked place on earth, for it to be destroyed off the face of the earth. Verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. All right, yeah, almost like a wounded animal, In this case, this is an abomination, an abominable animal. All right, that's literally bleeding out. But here it is. There's nothing much that we can do for her. All right. There's nothing else that we can do. Their sins literally has reached into the heavens. All right, that's what verse 9 goes into. It says, "We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth upon to heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies." All right, and when we go in verse 8, to take a fall, is to be essentially taken into the earth, to be low. Again, it's a humiliating thing. Like I mentioned before, these other nations, they're not looking the same. They're not looking at America the same way that they used to. All right, and I'm just throw an estimation for the generations out there that rhyme. 2 generations ago, they wouldn't be looking at America the same way the majority of the world looks at America now. The only people that holds it in high regard is really its own inhabitants, man. Just Edom, so-called white man. All right, but this place is true. And those articles, all these flights that was canceled, all those people that had to pretty much have their days be inconvenienced, and really inconvenience the economy as a whole. It's only going to get worse from here on out. Those when those numbers come out, and instead of just gaining estimations from these other aviation companies. But nevertheless, the desire to go into the city and Esau prohibiting and really implementing more draconian laws is only the beginning of things to come. All right, so those know this video was edifying. We'll close out by giving all praise and glory The Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Kakodash, the belongings of the apostles and elders, I agree most I'm going to teach them real well. And peace and blessings be unto you, full of Akim, be brothers. Let us also push out this word in truth, faith, and sincerity. With that, I'm going to say shalom.